Back with the Trade and Triangle again, just obviously me and Kay. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing great. It's good to be back. We took a long break. We had a 4 weeks break, so
4 weeks. The month
can't
off.
wait. Yeah, can't wait to be back in the groove and actually
Yeah.
start doing this again.
We're planning on putting quite a streak together, so make sure you tune in every Sundays. Every Sundays? Every Sunday to. But I'm a bit rusty already, as you can tell. I'm only, 31 seconds in? I've already messed up. Nice. But yeah, tune in every Sunday, obviously 6 p.m. UK and 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We're very consistent around the times. Before we jump into the charts, obviously this is not financial advice. It's just two guys talking about charts and the stock market, just because we love to do it. It's kind of our hobby, should we say? Fantastic. Yeah, thank you very much again for Wolf for letting us use the platform. We really do appreciate it. And again, before we jump into anything, make sure you put your requests in. As you can see down there, the little banner. Stay tuned for the audience request at the end. We take a look at your charts and we look forward to doing so. So, yeah, without further ado, let's jump into the charts. Right, we can chart view September 30th, last week of September. The first week of September, K, wasn't so good, was it? But actually looking pretty good in the remainder of September. So what we've got, this is last week's performance. Obviously, NVIDIA pumping out there with the big green sign, but Microsoft looking a bit kind of iffy. I thought actually last week felt pretty good. I don't know how you felt about that, Kay.
I think last week was pretty good in terms of my main focus was on Nvidia and Tesla. But overall, I think it was pretty okay. There wasn't much going on. I think October is the real month with earning season kicking off. You have two major events for Tesla, so that will have an impact on the wider market. We also heard some news against SMCI, where the Department of Justice has opened a case. So SMCI has been struggling lately.
Mm.
Apple products, iPhone 16, even though the real world sales have picked up compared to 15, but the perception of that 16 is just an incremental change over 15 still persists because most of the Apple Intelligence features haven't been shipped out yet. So you can see some weakness in Apple as well over there.
Yeah, there's a few people complaining about that, isn't there? It's not. Why would you buy the product if it's not actually, live? Everything they advertise with it is it's not pretty much not there. So why would you buy it? And I probably
Exactly.
wouldn't.
But that also, having said that, that actually helps Apple more because that extends the life cycle of buying the product. Because what's going to happen is folks who are going to get that 16 version early, and once the Apple Intelligence starts to roll out, it's just going to be word of mouth on how folks are going to be using 16. So that cycle might get extended. We'll see how it plays out. But I think Apple, once all features are out and about for 16, I think you will probably see a big bump in the upgrade, especially for folks who haven't done upgrades since like 12 or 11, 13, something like that.
Exactly. They need to get that out before Christmas, definitely, because obviously with all the Christmas sales and all the presents, etc. Just last things on here, obviously Tesla 7.8%, and you can see right in the bottom corner there, AMD actually getting a bit of a bid. Maybe someone can comment AMD so we can have a look at that one later on. I think it's just kind of breaking out of a wedge. If not, we can bring it ourselves, obviously.
Yeah, I'll put
But
it
yeah,
for AMD as well on the list.
nice. Moving into the fear and greed index, we are heavily in the greed. It feels recently a little bit more like it could be extreme greed, but you can see on the side here, it's not actually anywhere near extreme greed. So we're just kind of floating around this area at the moment. Do you see it going to extreme greed anytime soon?
Um, I mean, we do have a lot of events coming up,
Mm.
especially the Tesla delivery numbers are coming up next week on 10/2, and the next following week is the big 10/10 event. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see some kind of a rush to buy the rumor, sell the news situation. But in general, historically, October has been a pretty low month, especially on the election year. And I think this data goes back, couple decades. I don't have that pulled up right up in front of me, but so October could be a choppy month as well, I would say.
Yeah, just as the same as kind of September. It's felt pretty choppy, at least
Yeah.
in my
I mean,
opinion.
you might be up at the end of the October, but
Mm.
again, it might be a choppy month.
We can see on the left here, obviously, what's happened last week with the SPY, QQQ, Diamonds, and IWM. Not really much movement, and we'll jump into the charts in a second. I can kind of explain what's kind of going on there. Obviously, you've mentioned here as well Tesla delivery numbers, bit of jobs data, I think, on the Tuesday, and Fed speakers all week. And the main one being Fed Jerome Powell speaking tomorrow. I've got written down here 6 p.m. UK, which is 1 p.m. your time. But I've seen also 2 p.m. as well. So just be careful of when he's speaking. And if you've got any open trades, obviously, do be aware of that as well. So yeah, let's move on to the next section. We've got earnings next week. Not a lot on the chart, but I think you might want to talk about Nike later on.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Right, we'll move on then, shall we?
Yeah. Nothing much on the screen.
Nothing much to say there. Okay. I think, is it the week after the bank start, is it?
Correct.
Nice.
And Tesla, I think, is on 10/18, which is like the third week, I believe.
They're normally pretty early, aren't they, in the earnings season? So first chart we've got here is obviously SPY. We have had a recommendation of SPY and Microsoft. Before we jump into the chart, obviously make sure, I'm trying to find where that is. Put your audience requests in the chats, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on X. We're happy to look through any charts. It's what we love to do, give our perspectives and perhaps maybe think about, give you something to think about, something different about the chart that you're looking at. Anyway, let's jump into the chat. Jump in the chart for SPY.
Mm-hmm.
We've been going pretty well, but you can see, this is what I want to kind of bring up. Lots of like kind of doji candles, should we say, that, especially within this period here, not much movement throughout the day, not much movement throughout the day, not much movement throughout the day, and the same again here. You could probably say the same around about here. Lots of overnight moves, isn't there? So that's, you can see obviously the stock market is moving, but just not within that day. So it's a little bit choppy. It's a day trader's nightmare, or actually potentially a gift if you can play levels perfectly, especially on the lower time frames, your 5 minutes, your 15 minutes, etc. I'm just going to keep talking here for a minute or so here, okay? I do apologise. But we do have this level here of 565, which is the line going through the screen. I feel like we've already come down and retested that. We can see that within this candle. I don't know what day that is. Doesn't really matter too much. A couple of weeks ago, come back down for the retest and maybe just pushing up and just grinding up towards that kind of $600 mark. I know it sounds a bit mad, but lots of banks are coming out and saying, do we get to 600 before the end of the year? Doesn't necessarily mean to say we're going to finish there. Obviously, being election year could be very volatile. We could even hit 600 before the elections and obviously go down after that. But that's still up for speculation. Obviously, we're not here to predict that. Just what people are saying, just to kind of give you an idea of what could happen, shall we say. But I'm here for any sort of volatility. We're traders at the end of the day. I'm going to stop talking now about the SPY. Have you got any observations with this chart?
I think, the volume shelf definitely has built up around the 568 to 570. There is good volume shelf. And even I think from 565 going to 571, we have good volume shelf, at least if you look from August all the way going up to the most recent one. But I think from if I add the Fibonacci retracement on my side, if I want to get, I would want to wait for the 559 level. That is where I see the next, at least the support level for, and that's where the bulk of the volume is, the biggest volume shelf at that level. Also looking at the put to call ratio, pretty standard from a SPY standpoint, mostly above 2.5, 2.45 throughout the next week. So I would say as it keeps going up every single day or every single week, you will have those. If you're a day trader, you will have a lot of opportunities throughout the day. But if you're going to swing trade it, then you have to wait for at least a pullback to substantial level, at least 565. I would say I would target for an upswing of 574.
And I think on that, looking out for swing trades is confluence as well. We like the word on this channel. So if it is to pull back to those kind of levels that you mentioned, make sure it kind of comes in line with a volume profile or a moving average, or even just a volume weighted average price. So yeah, things to look out for there. Don't just go on one indicator. At least I don't. I mean, you could if you're feeling pretty fruity. But yeah, no, definitely look out for confluence, I'd say. We've got a few suggestions. Sebastian, nice to see you again. I'm sorry we've been out so late. Yes, but we're back. Happily, we're back. So we've got Match, we've got QCOM. The NIO bull is back. Yes, we'll get onto that a little bit later on. The JPM has been suggested by Raminda. Have you written this one down, Kay?
Yes, I'm
Good,
I'm
good.
I'm I'm writing it down. Don't worry.
Because I'm not.
Yeah, no worry.
So
I got everything covered here.
the Qs are looking a bit different, aren't they? So you can see the SPY here, kind of all-time high territory, kind of plugging away. But the Qs are a little bit more volatile, but not quite to all-time highs just yet. I'm going to leave this one to you. I'm not going to look at this one too much. You can see the levels that I'm looking at on the screen. But do you think we're going to get all-time highs anytime soon? Or do you
I
think
think
it's
it
a bit
really
early
depends on
still?
the. I mean, honestly, I think we could hit all-time high, especially with Tesla events and Nvidia's latest push, going up. Also, from a fib standpoint, we are very close to the 482 level, which is where the volume shelf is, most of it, right? 486. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 2 to 3 weeks we actually see a new all-time high for QQQ.
Yeah, it's looking like that, isn't it? Just kind of gradually grinding up now towards that kind of top point, kind of 503.
Yeah, and that is still a 5% upside. So
Yeah, I mean, you can get that within a couple of days with Qs these days. You can see it within the charts and big moves, especially this one, for example. There's a big move during one day.
And I will share something interesting data with you. The put
Please
to
do.
call ratio is very, very bullish. It's like almost close to 1.35, as opposed to the 2+%, sorry, 2.45 on SPY. So a lot more bullish on the tech side.
Wow, that's good. The only other observation that I would pull up here is the kind of gap fill that we had at 493, coming back down and retesting that kind of 486 line, but then obviously hoping to kind of move upwards. And that's the only thing I would add to this chart. Should we move on?
So
Oh,
Nikkei, Sebastian has a question that the Nikkei futures were down 6%. Do you follow a lot more on the international market,
not
Sean?
really. I mean, I do the UK and obviously the HSI as well for the kind of Chinese side of things, but the Japanese market's not one I look at too much.
Now,
Um,
I don't know, is it because that they have a new prime minister coming in?
Probably helps, yeah, with some sort of volatility that way. But I wouldn't know enough about it to kind of comment certainly around that kind of thing. Maybe I'll do a bit of
Yeah.
digging and see what's happening over there because I know the forex charts are a bit different as well. So the pound towards the Japan's kind of really swung. So yeah, not looking good, I guess.
All right, let's move on.
So let's move on to DraftKings, which is the first chart from me today. I've got DraftKings and NIO. You'll be happy to know. So I haven't brought it up for quite some months, but it's actually doing something. Okay, so I'm looking forward to talking about NIO. We've had a little bit of news today as well, actually, has come out from the kind of the NIO executives. But yeah, first up is DraftKings. You can see that I'm in a trade. This is kind of the stop loss area, and this is obviously the take profit area. Going for a swing trade here, obviously, so that's not the kind of move you get within one day, although it is possible. But yeah, I'm not hoping for that. I'm not looking for that. You can see a bit of a laser show on the screen. So you've got a couple of lines coming down here, a couple here. Just kind of ignore that. Just kind of use them as kind of support lines, should we say. So unfortunately, I haven't turned on the volume profile for this particular one, but it is looking good around this area as well. I've looked for confluence, and you might think, why has he got in so early? But just because I like this candle here, you can just about see it. This candle, I think that was last Friday, must have been last Friday, just to kind of come back above the 200 moving average. And that's why I liked a little bit of entry, and that's where I nibbled. And then I added to it just before the close. Since then, we've had a nice little move up, and I thought, okay, this is going great, possibly too great. So obviously, it's come back down and retested. So this would have been a good entry point as well, or if I wanted to add to the trade, and I've got enough in it, so I'm going to leave that for now. But yeah, going back to my original kind of thoughts around confluence, we've got this trend line, we've got the 200 moving average. As I said before, we've got the volume profile around here as well.
Mhm.
And we've also got the kind of confluence of these trend lines down here if it was to kind of pull back a little bit more, which is why my stop loss is down here. So plenty to think about around DraftKings, and obviously from just a logical point of view, heading into Q3, Q4, we're in Q3, heading into Q4, it's sports season. So DraftKings tends to do pretty well. Unfortunately, it's a sin stock. People will gamble. People will take their chances to get more money to try and, help their lifestyle. But that's just kind of how. I mean, I gamble every now and then as well, so I'm not alone with that. But yeah, what are your thoughts around DraftKings? I'll stop talking now.
Let me ask you this. So,
Yeah.
of course, it's making lower highs, right? The general trend is lower on the DraftKings, but we do see that if you draw that line, it's definitely broken that downtrend. But the I think on what Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, we had that kind of the doji candle, and then we saw a big decline on Friday, and the stock price is coming very close to the 200-day moving average, which is 39.17, and this is what 41 something, 40.36. Do you think we'll get a bounce from 200 days? Is that what you're aiming for, or
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we may not have seen it, but there's definitely signs there, because you can see with Friday's candle, and the buyers have come in towards the end and pushed that wick, up, which shows that the buyers are still interested, and we're still, as I mentioned, above all of these levels. So it's nice to see that kind of price action holding up for a stock like this. Obviously, this is an extended move, so it's probably 7% ish. So it's just cooling off a little bit. So I expect it to kind of break these highs, and obviously, hopefully, these highs as well, because this is going to be a big kind of point of resistance around 44, just because of that intense wick that we saw back in June. But yeah, ultimately, I would love it to get above this kind of 44 level, and obviously, hopefully, then the rest should be fairly easy to get to 48. Judging by the volume profile, which I don't know why I haven't put it on here. It's disappointing for me. Anyway.
And I think your put to call ratio is pretty bullish, at least going until, I guess, December or so. So
yeah.
So that kind of adds to your confluence point. There's a lot more call options on DKNG.
Lovely. Nice. So yeah, that's DraftKings. We'll move on to the next one, which is NIO. Where do I start?
Well,
basically,
let me help you with that. So I do have call options open, leap call options on NIO, so I'm happy overall. But my position is still down on NIO from a long-term perspective.
So basically, since we've been off air, it's gone up. I don't even know the amount that it's gone up. It's gone from roughly 380 to 650. So it's almost 100%. So obviously, with the stock of this kind of value, those kind of moves can be had quite easily. So I guess I'll start with the daily chart on the left side, as you can see here. Bit of a bull flag. We broke through that with a little bit of news. Obviously, the Chinese is kind of pumping stimulus into their economy, so obviously that's good for the stock market generally. So that's good to see. So that obviously reacted nicely on that news. It's come back down and retested kind of 361 level. At this point, technicals do play out quite nicely for Chinese stocks. So keep your eye around the technicals. I know not everyone likes the technicals. They do like the fundamentals and the news side, and that's completely fine. But I do like to trade the technicals. That's probably why you're watching this. But yeah, we've got the 20 moving average coming through, the 200 moving average, and I like the price action at the moment. It's just positive. Where I'm thinking of it will go is probably what people are looking at this for, or watching this for, and I'm looking at kind of 720 ultimately. What it does after that could be anything, because obviously you've got this big downtrend that goes back to 2022, and I've been a bit conservative for 720, given the kind of volume recently and the moves it's been having. It could come up to 760, 770 potentially. So I'm a bit conservative around 720. But that's just kind of, if it travels sideways for a few days, we will kind of, dribble up there. But yeah, I mean, we've had some news out today as well with the kind of investors kind of putting money into NIO. There's a really good video by Marcel, which is kind of one of the main kind of NIO people. He covers NIO really well, and that's on my kind of on my X channel. So you can go ahead and look at that, all about what's happened today and how it's actually not dilution. It's good news for the company moving forward, especially kind of 6 months plus. So in my opinion, it's actually good news for NIO and many others. I guess wrapping this up, because I've probably got to wrap it up at some point. 720 is the target. I'm just, hoping that $6 level holds. So even if we travel between 6 and 7 for a few weeks, maybe up to a month, that's okay. I'm happy with that. And ultimately, maybe in the next earnings report, we can break out of this really long downtrend, and that is that could go anywhere. We've just seen PayPal make a really good move, so we could see something similar along those lines. Anything to add on this kind of mess that I've just created with NIO?
No, I think you covered it well, but I think Sebastian has also a good point that so there's a lot of rotation coming into Chinese stocks, especially
Mm.
after the stimulus was announced. Funny thing is, like, if you watch CNBC, you will have guests on both sides of the shop. Some are very bullish on the Chinese rotation, and especially the stimulus coming in, so they're very bullish on the stocks, whereas some are still being very skeptical that overall this rally might be short lived. Again, you always have two opinions, bulls and bears, on each of sides. The question is, how much you are personally trading into the Chinese stock. um, Let me ask you this then. On the NEO side, I mean, this downtrend line is going to be a very big resistance level for NEO. What could be the catalyst that can actually help break this trend line?
It will be the deliveries for obviously the NEO brand and also the Onvo brand. Um, so that will be the kind of main catalyst. But you've also got the next earnings report, but that probably won't be for the next 2 months. So that's probably a little bit too far given the price action. I mean, it might travel sideways up until then, and that's perfectly fine. But I think the next delivery report could be in excess of 25,000-30,000 potentially with the Onvo, because the Onvo brand, which is like an off brand, I don't know if you know about it, of NEO, which is kind of a cheaper, you know, competitor to the Tesla Y model, and it's receiving quite a lot of eyeballs and really good reviews, and the quality of the vehicle seems to be quite a high standard, as you would probably expect with the NEO brand. So that would be interesting to see if that's kind of taken off to everyone's kind of expectations. But yeah, I would say probably next delivery report, which is just a matter of days now.
But
That's the nearest term, but definitely earnings.
so, Sean, Sebastian brings a good point, right?
Yeah,
He
I
did
can't
mention
agree more.
about the tariff, which is the voting is coming in. So, what do you think about the tariff, especially with the EU? Now, doesn't would the tariffs won't be applicable on the UK side, right? Because UK is not part of EU.
No, I mean they don't deliver many cars at all from the Europeans. I don't think it'll affect it too much, especially with the main kind of revenue income. But I really don't think it'll affect it that, at least for now, at all. Really, the only country
Do
that
you?
actually sells vehicles is Germany and Norway. So
Oh, so you don't have that many neo cars in UK?
don't have any. No, no,
Oh,
I haven't seen one. I
it's
think there
all
was one spotted in London last year, but I've not heard anything since.
so it's
But yeah,
mostly Germany and Norway.
Germany
That's
and Norway are the biggest hitters. Yeah, and then you've obviously got Holland as well. But yeah, they don't really sell many vehicles at all per month. So yeah, they're not focusing on that market. Let's put it that way. And obviously they want to enter the kind of Middle East as well, but that's obviously still nowhere near execution. I think they want to concentrate on actually getting China under wraps, getting the Chinese population, aware of the brand, and then tell
yeah.
everyone that it's about.
Exactly. I think even in China, it's I think BYD is the real player,
Hmm.
and a lot of other cheaper brands over there. But okay,
And,
anyways.
and, and Sebastian's right. GB will be way more protective. Uh, we do tend to have yeah. We won't go there. That's too many politics involved. But yeah, thank you, Sebastian, for your thoughts around kind of Chinese economy and obviously NEO as well. We'll move on from there because we have spoken about NEO for quite some time. As
Yeah.
much as I love it, we are 23 minutes and we haven't even touched you yet. So you can find me on obviously YouTube, X, and Substack as well. I don't really do a newsletter, but I do have something cool coming in the next couple of months, which Kay doesn't even know about yet. So yeah, looking forward to getting it up and running and obviously sharing with you guys as well. Before we get onto your charts, Kay, I just want to thank obviously Wolf for the platform that we use, which is obviously Restream. So thank you very much for that. And obviously stick in your, sorry, I'm so rusty. Stick in your audience requests as well for the end. I think we've got a few, but keep putting them in the comments section. We need something to talk about. Anyway, I'm gonna stop talking now. I've got
So
too excited. I'm just so excited about being back.
coming back, yeah, yeah. So first of all, Sebastian, man, I was in Germany actually 2 weeks ago, and I was all whole the Munich area and went all the way to the Black Forest. That was the whole end to end, east to west Germany trip I did. So it was beautiful. Did get to participate in the Oktoberfest. It was a week before the Oktoberfest happened, but they already had the beer and everything. So it was amazing. I love Germany. I love driving as well on Autobahn. So going back, and so I'm opening up with NVIDIA today. And the reason is, if you love selling options as part of your trading strategy, I think NVIDIA. Oh, you're in Munich? Perfect. Beautiful city. Um, so going back to NVIDIA, if you sell options, I think this is one of the best trades that you can get into, especially at this point in time. Considering it's bar coding at this level, there's a lot of good entry points you can see, especially in the 116 to 120 range. So that's where you can actually open your CSPs, and you can make it, sell at the money, and kind of make it collect some good premiums on a weekly basis, or you can even do monthly if you want, and you can sell covered calls at the same levels. So I've been doing this for now about 2 months or no, and we have collected very good premiums on Nvidia. Right now, still in a downtrend. We did hear one of the news from China that the government is encouraging local companies to not use NVIDIA chips. We also know that NVIDIA is working on a very localized Chinese chip, which will be meant for the China market. So I think something is going to happen in the middle. I don't think they can just completely remove NVIDIA, considering how advanced this company and the chips are. So I think the demand is still there. There is I forget the name of the professor. He's an NYU professor, Ashwanath. I don't know his last name. He's a big Nvidia bull, but even for him right now, there is the growth. The growth will be there, but from his standpoint, there is not much runway up in Nvidia. But I guess if you're trading it, this is a good range, 116 to 120, at least for the foreseeable future, and we'll see how that plays out. Yeah, I mean, yeah, SMCI definitely is going to have an impact, but at the same time, we are also seeing that there's no stoppage in the hyperscalers to build out the AI platform. Now, yes, of course, OpenAI also had a little bit of a negative news with the CTO leaving, but they also launched a lot of new features, which are a lot of people are excited about. So I think we might not see as much of a drawdown or impact, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually barcode in this level for the foreseeable future until a major catalyst comes in, which will be the Blackwell chip when it gets launched. So that's my take on NVIDIA. Um, this is a perfect option selling strategy for this particular stock. Thoughts?
Just more of an observation. I see you've got the kind of trend line drawn there from the recent peak of 140. Just a real simple one for me. Obviously, if you do break that kind of trend line, come back down and retest it, a simple move to kind of 140. It's not the biggest. It's not the biggest return, not the biggest percentage. I mean, but that's kind of what I'd be looking at from a trading point of view. And then perhaps if you drew, where's my mouse? There it is. If you drew a line from these two lows, perhaps up to here. If we break that to the downside, I'd be looking for that kind of target of the 200 moving average on the downside. So obviously, if we do get a bit of negative momentum in the market, which is completely possible, and that's another kind of way of looking for it. So we're kind of in a wedge almost, aren't we, at the moment? So
Yeah, and as you mentioned a little bit earlier, like generally October is, especially in the election year, is kind of a down month. But there are many reasons that we might not get. One is, first, we have the Chinese stimulus coming in. Second, we have Tesla major event, which a lot of people are looking at. And there are a lot of other events, and you had a 50 basis point rate cut. Rate cut. So all this news is also something new which hasn't happened in the past. So that data might be skewed as well. So we'll see how it goes, but I wouldn't be surprised if the month remains choppy and we might be flat throughout the month, if not a drawdown.
plenty to look forward to, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. Next one is pretty straightforward. Nike is going to report earnings. Nike has had a very, very bad, I guess, few months now. We had that massive gap down in July after the earnings report. They also changed the CEO most recently. But if you notice, although the two gaps that I have are the gap downs we have had after earnings, and last three earnings have been pretty bad for Nike. Nike hasn't really done. You have your newer brands like On and Hoka. They are slowly getting into the market, especially grabbing a lot of market share. Still, having said that, Nike is one of the most recognizable brands in the world. Pretty much most of the people know what Nike is and what they do, what they sell. So I wouldn't be surprised. And now we're in the process of filling the first gap, and there is still some momentum, especially with the new CEO change coming in. A similar story has played with Starbucks. So I wouldn't be surprised that in the next coming quarters, not months, but maybe coming quarters, we may see Nike filling that second gap again. I'm always, especially in swing trading, I like seeing gap downs or gap ups, and that's where I target to profit from. So that is my trade here, is making sure that we have that gap fill at some point in time. You can actually see the earning move will be about 8.3%. I'm not going to play earnings on Nike. There's still some volatility is there, but we can still see that we might be getting some support at the 200-day moving average, where if you actually zoom in, you can see the current stock price is sitting at the 200-day moving average, and we may be able to see that gap fill complete before we see another trend.
It's interesting because you would expect that if it was to go up on earnings, it would create another gap. And we've got a bit of a gap, kind of 81-ish on the negative side, I mean. So it could. So what I mean by this is kind of potential entry for people. Obviously, you're kind of in it already, which is great. But people might be looking at us, okay, I like this opportunity, I like the gap fills, but where do I get in? So maybe a simple retracement kind of down to one of the gap fills. So you've got that gap at 81, a potential gap that might be filled on the earnings report.
Correct.
But with that, obviously, you've got the 20 moving average and the 50 moving average, which are the yellow and red lines kind of following through. You could also wait for that to happen. But I think the main kind of point for me is to kind of wait for earnings to play out, probably wait maybe 2 or 3 days after that, dissect the report, see where the company might be heading. But yeah, but that's kind of all I've got to say, really. Just be careful with your entry.
And if you're getting into Nike for a swing trade, it might be a couple quarters actually. It might not. This play might not play out for a couple quarters now, because if you see the first gap down we had in last year December, that's
Yeah,
the first gap down, and then the second gap down, the big gap down happened 2 earnings later. So you might be looking at two or three earnings later that you might see a gap fill all the way to the top, because the new CEO will take at least couple quarters before he gets his wheel turning, the new plans in place, new products getting launched. But yeah, but this is a good entry point for long-term positioning as well and trading as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's a very long-term kind of swing trade. You pick up some dividends along the way, won't you?
Yeah, exactly. It's a dividend stock as well.
Yeah, lovely, awesome.
Okay,
That's
let's
nice.
move
Where can
on.
we find you? Okay.
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube. I do post on a regular basis. There is actually a SoFi trade that I just posted recently, a couple days ago. It's still in the play for next month, 2 month. Yeah, you can check it out. And I'm not writing on Substack lately, but eventually that's the plan to pick it up. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Let's get this switched over to the charts. We go through some. Whoops. There we go. Right. We do have another one of Carnival Cruise Lines. Have you added that to the list?
Yep.
Fantastic.
And I don't know. The last comment from Peter is that's not a ticker symbol. So I'll
No, maybe one day it will be. Actually, it could be. Maybe we should look it up. There we go. Right, it's the charts. It's first up is Microsoft, is it right? Am I right with that?
Yes, Microsoft was the first one.
So actually, because you can see, I've done a bit of analysis on Microsoft a couple of weeks ago. I think I went live on X myself to kind of talk about it. Not just that, obviously, but other things as well. And I've got this green line kind of drawn out. I'll zoom in so people can see it properly. It's basically a simple retest of a previous resistance, sitting at 427 ish. And it looks like it kind of came back down and retested it kind of over here rather than obviously here. I think it'd be perfect. But are we getting a bit of a second bite at the cherry? This is what I'm thinking about now, like as we're talking now. And I'm glad, I can't remember who, I think Justin brought this one up. So I'm glad Justin kind of brought this up because it kind of brought my attention back into Microsoft. So yeah, I think possibly here, but there's not much confluence to kind of go on there. Would you personally wait for it to come lower, Kay, or would you be okay with this kind of entry?
So this entry looks good because on the fib level, 427.44 is at the 50% retracement, and we have had multiple touches at that. So it's acting like a good support level. But at the same time, we also had at 436.91, which is the next level, we have had one, two, three rejections from that level. So if you are in a short play from 427 to 436.91 could be a play that you can play in that range, especially if you're selling options. Um, but I would actually wait if you want a longer term position. Then I would wait for the 415 level. That is where the big volume shelves are actually, and you can probably see it on your chart as well.
There's one
That,
here.
yeah, and
If I zoom out, it'd be better.
yeah, and it's not that much of a drawdown. Let's see. It's a 3% drawdown.
So you're saying it'll probably be a bit of a safer entry if
Safer
it was
and
to come back down to
yeah.
200 moving average area.
And honestly, if you want to sell options or if you want to use options to get into the position, I would actually sell the option at 415 level, 413, 415 level to get in, because most of your big volume shelf sits there. And then also that's only a 3% drawdown. It's not like 10-15% drawdown. So we could see that in a day or 2 days. 2 bad days on Microsoft could give you a 3% drawdown.
And we do have Fed Jerome Powell talking tomorrow, so it could be the potential of a bit of a drawdown as well if it comes out all hawkish. So yeah, I mean, one to keep an eye on for sure. Some levels there for you all to look at. Microsoft got a 415 area, and we spoke about the 436 area as well.
Yep.
So yeah, one to watch definitely for Microsoft. I'll put it down on my list, that's for sure.
Okay.
Kind of always there. Where are we going next? Okay.
So the next one is MTCH. Mahesh, we are just going in the order we have received the request. So yes, we'll get to MobileEye as well.
Nice. Which one's this? Match Group? Is this like some sort of dating thing? Is that right?
I think so. I am not that familiar, I'm not in the dating field anymore, so
Sebastian, comment why you like this or why you dislike this, because we're looking at this chart here, it looks quite nice for potential breakout. So you've got, probably here actually at this kind of level. It's a very interesting level. Just looking at the chart straight off the bat, I get that back up to 38. This 38 level, you can see a little bit of resistance, obviously recently. I know it's not that zoomed in. And then a little bit around here, maybe you could call it a zone from like kind of 37 to 39 area. And then perhaps if we get above the 39, I'll probably look a little bit more tasty. So let's just get rid of 38. I've backtracked already. So you've got 39 here. No, what did I say? Yeah, 39 there. Nice touch here. And obviously a nice touch here. So if we can get through 39, I'll be looking out for a breakout trade. And you know I like that. Sebastian says it is in a range and uptrend equals Tinder. I like that. But yeah, lots of higher highs as well. Higher lows going into this kind of resistance is a typical breakout setup. So let me just draw that out. I mean, you probably figured that one out, but
yeah,
4 higher lows is actually really nice. And obviously subsequently bouncing off the moving averages on the way up is what we love to see. Thank you, Justin, for the kind words. We really appreciate it. I think he's asking me to zoom out. Sebastian knows. Oh yeah, I mean, fair enough.
and
If in doubt, zoom out. That's where I should have started.
do you want to know something funny about this? Like the 1018 expiration for this particular stock, the put to call is 0.16. You have 36,800 call options open on this company
Blimey.
versus only 6,000 put options. Crazy.
So we've got that there. It looks like that trend line is good. So this trend line on the weekly chart is really tasty. I probably, from what I would look for, we probably missed the opportunity personally, just because I like the retest of the trend line, kind of what happened, let's say just the turn of September. Really, 2 really nice, good weeks. but I'd still be looking at that 39 level for sure
For an entry?
for an entry. Yeah, a breakout and a retest, because I'm not too sure if this would be a run and gun stock. I mean, I could be wrong, but personally, I don't think this would be kind of a gap and go, should we say. I think it would probably retreat back down to the 39, and that's where my entry would be for sure. And I like it for more upside, maybe towards kind of 42. It's also not the best returning stock. I'd probably look elsewhere, but I like it. I like what you're looking at, Sebastian.
And their earnings come out end of October, so you could also look at playing that.
Very true. Yeah. Lots to look at there. What's next?
Okay, next one is let me see, get my list. It's Qualcomm. Qualcomm.
I've not looked at this one for ages. I wonder if I've got any lines drawn on here. Oh,
Yeah,
actually, I really like this one already. Straight up.
yeah, exactly.
Any levels? No, no levels on here. I like the confluence of the 50 moving average and the 20 moving average. We've also got lots of volume around this area. Looks like it's kind of sinking back into it. I would like it to kind of get back up to 173, but that's a very small move. That's not too bad. But I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing here, Kay, but you've got a really nice resistance here around, what's that, 175? Because that goes back quite some time. So back in kind of March, April, and obviously kind of late parts of August as well, quite consistently touching that level. So if we can get above that and stay above that, that would be really, really good. And that's what I'm looking at here. And I'm actually going to write that one down. I can't
But
remember who put that one up. Who brought that one up?
let me share my thought on this one. The first thing that is happening, and I think next 2-3 tradings will confirm, we are sitting right at the 200-day moving average. So if we can continue with the bounce over there, which most likely might happen, the next level of 174 running from there is still has a good volume shelf, and I could play that from 170 all the way to 180. That's where the next resistance level will come in, which is, there's not much volume at that, but there is resistance at that level as well. That's what I'm seeing on when I draw the Fibonacci on my side.
We've also got a couple of gap fills, which I do like the look of. Let's just say
Where do you see the gap?
got one there.
Oh man, so tiny, I can't see that. Okay.
That's not that small. And then this one's even smaller. There you
Oh
go.
yes, true, true, true.
You see that? I'll zoom in for you so you can
Yeah,
see
yeah, I see it on my chart now.
a couple of gaps there. So you could even, if you get above the kind of 175, this would be what I look for, at least from my perspective. Get above 175, maybe come back down, retest it, start a trade, enter it obviously for the long side, and have maybe a first target of 192, and then on next target of kind of 207 ish. Obviously, you play around with your own levels, look at your own charts. Don't take my word for it. It's obviously not financial advice, but that's kind of what I would be looking for.
Yeah. And for those who want to do the wheel strategy, like buying put, selling covered calls, you could easily aim this level of 166, 167, and you can buy at the money, sell at the money put. And if you want to sell at the money covered call, you could easily generate, because most of your trading is happening in this range, uh, going from 166 to 173, 74, unless you see a major breakout that SHAUN is showcasing. So you can continue to play this.
Don't mind me. You carry on. I'm just.
Yeah, no, no, no. So if you're not playing the breakout and if you're just playing the range, that's the range I would play on Qualcomm.
So I don't think I was really helping you there. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
awesome. I like this one. Thank you. I think it was Sebastian who brought this one up.
Yeah, Sebastian
Yeah,
brought up.
lovely.
Next one is JPM.
JP Morgan. Kind of sitting on the trend line. Let's go to the weekly, shall we? Let's do the weekly for this one. It's had a really good year, hasn't it? I mean, that's what the turn of the year is there. Let's see how much they're up at the moment.
They are up 23%, 24%, 23.75 for the year.
Wow. I mean, it's quite something for a bank, isn't it?
Correct. And they report earnings on 10/11, so 2 weeks from now.
Sebastian, I'm always, but plus you spelled my name wrong. I'm always bullish, yes, but that's only because of the market sentiment at the moment is bullish. So once it starts turning over, and the kind of trend lines start getting broken, the moving averages starts getting broken down, that's where I kind of go to a bit more of a neutral mindset. But yeah, maybe I should look more towards the kind of short side of kind of all time highs. Yeah, thank you.
So I think among the group that we had, Nate, me, and Sean is the most bullish among
Yeah,
all of us.
sorry.
That's
To be
okay.
fair, I have brought out some bear cases in the past, so I'm not always bullish, just most of the time.
Yeah.
Right, so that's JP Morgan. We haven't actually dove into yet. Any thoughts on this one, Kay, straight off the bat or not?
No, it's a stalwart stock, right? I mean, honestly, I will not use it for trading. I would probably just have it for a long term investing. But if you want to trade, I mean, you can take advantage of the trading for the earnings, considering the prediction is that they will beat the earnings. And
Hmm.
I let me take a look at the earnings move and see if we have a earnings play. We might cover this closer to the earnings play so that we have a better idea. I'll put that on the watch list then.
Yeah, I mean the only thing I would say, if we do get a bit of negative earnings, we might break this down, this trend line to the downside. And obviously, it's always a tricky time when you start cutting rates, isn't it, for banks?
Yeah, it's a
Because
3%. Sorry, go ahead.
they're not making as much money on the rate side, but they're also gaining more customers kind of through the loans, etc. So it's a bit of a balance there, at least in my opinion, obviously. But we'll see what happens with them.
And for the earnings move, they only move like 3%.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's not much of a, but I think what we can do is we can cover JP Morgan once it's closer to the earnings, the week of earnings, and we can
yeah. Okay,
probably provide some more input on how you can trade this particular one.
maybe you could have a bit more of an insight around the options kind of chain
That
around
is true.
JP
Yeah, because
Morgan. Yeah,
I generally don't trade JP Morgan, so I don't have much familiarity with the options chain, but I'll definitely take a look at it. Next one is MBLY, Mobileye.
so I've drawn this one before, quite a while back now. Would have been a nice short there, wouldn't it? If we broke that downtrend. So this is just a typical thing for me. I mark charts and then I just forget about them. And obviously that's kind of happened through here. That would have been a nice amount of money to make. This one, well, okay. So here's one. This one actually looks bearish. Wouldn't you agree?
This is very bearish, and it's interestingly on the option chain is very bullish because there's a lot of call options, but the IV is almost like 80 to 90%. So you would definitely, if you're buying calls, you're paying a lot of premium on it. You're basically paying a big price on the call options. And if you're selling
Really?
options, then probably banking a lot on the premium side. So let's see, Mobile Eye. Yeah, I mean for a $14 stock, you're getting 45, $50. That's a lot of money.
The only thing from a technical point of view is a possible. Well, it is an RSI divergence, but that might have already played out. That might have been something we looked at um, middle of September, about 3 weeks ago. Since then, it's made that move about what 20% ish. But yeah, I think you're right, Sebastian. Dead stock at the moment, that's for sure. If we can get some decent technicals to kind of lower highs, no, higher lows, sorry, and then get it back above the 50 moving average, maybe. But yeah, I wouldn't look at this one closely anyway.
Mobileye is what it is it's an offshoot of Intel, right? Intel business had, you know, this was Intel business, right? Mobileye.
I've no idea.
I think so. I think it was a offshoot of Intel. I mean, if you look at Intel, we had some massive gap downs on Intel, and then now Intel is starting to fill those gaps. I mean, I would stay clear of these stocks honestly at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you get above the 50 moving average, you can get a gap fill to 20. That's probably the closest short term view that I have. So sorry, Mahesh, if I'm not bullish enough for you on this stock.
I think that the bullishness came is because Intel also mentioned that they will not divest their majority stake from Mobileye. That's also the reason why we saw this massive surge in the stock.
Ah, right.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, at this point among all the chip stocks, Intel is the last stock I want to touch.
Yeah,
Even though we have covered Intel so many times over here on the channel.
yeah.
Right. Okay, next one is CCL, Carnival Cruise Line.
Okay. It's a bit of a funny one. We've got a bit of a breakout opportunity there for sure. I've been saying that quite a lot tonight. It's weird. I haven't actually looked at many charts. So we look at, I was going to say 19 because I like whole levels, but you could actually bring that up probably towards 19, 20. Let's say that. If we get above that, perhaps maybe a breakout and go to the upside. But fading that, I mean, this trend line that I've drawn is not that solid anymore, I would say, because we've basically broken it so many times down here. So I might just get rid of that. And then spread that out a touch and then add a line here. This one seems to be respecting a little bit more, if you agree. Get rid of that. So yeah, I don't hate it. I like it for more upside if we can get above 1920, but fully expecting it to kind of travel in between this level for now. So definitely patience is needed if you're looking to trade Carnival Corporation. For the long term, I mean, again, an add point. I mean, you'll probably point towards the kind of the moving averages down here and the trend line. That could be a good add point for the kind of long term holders. Does it pay a dividend, this one? Doesn't, does it?
Let me check.
No.
Let me check. I think no, they don't pay dividends.
No, so I don't really have a hope of dividends. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this one then? Okay.
So while you were looking at the technical charts, I was looking at. So there's a lot of buy ratings on Carnival Cruise Line, both from Wall Street and other analysts as well. So definitely looking very very bullish. Their earnings is coming up tomorrow. By the way, it's
Oh, yeah, okay.
earnings tomorrow, and we have 9 up EPS revisions on this one. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually have a breakout because from the last 7 quarters they have been beating their EPS and revenues,
Wow.
and so they have had a pretty bad streak. So 12 quarters they missed earnings and EPS 12 quarters in a row, and in the last 7 quarters they are beating their estimates. So I think might be on something, especially with a lot more up revisions, strong buys and buys from Wall Street. We might be up to something on this one.
What's the average move? Did you mention that?
Average move, yeah, let me see. Good point. So CCL
It could be interesting to do like a post earnings
about
trade, perhaps.
6.7%.
Okay, so we're looking at, obviously this is not going to happen exactly. It could be 4%, it could be 10%, but we're looking at about $19.50 to $20 if it was to go to the upside. Likewise, basically back down to the bottom of the range for downside. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some trading opportunities here for Carnival Cruise Lines. I like the upside more. Surprise, surprise. I like the upside more. Maybe to come up to 1980. Maybe we come back down to retest 1920, 1930 ish, and then I'd like entry there potentially. In fact, I'm going to write that down. Yeah. What are we on to next? Okay.
So that was all the requests that we had. We do want to cover AMD that in the beginning.
Yes, AMD. Maybe we have to take a look at Tesla as well, because obviously that's kind of, we haven't looked at that one at all, have we?
Yeah. Feel free to drop any more ticker request. If not, then we'll just randomly pick the ones that we are tracking on our own.
So ignore everything that I've drawn on this chart, because I saw something quite interesting earlier on X, which is everyone's favorite platform. This one here. This was the trend line that I saw. Obviously, most recent highs. But look at that. That's a perfect kind of breakout retest on a trend line. Not perfect, but it's almost perfect because it's almost coming back down to 161-ish, 160. Something around there would be good entry, in my opinion, because we've got obviously a really big rejection off of here, a nice rejection off of here back in July, played around these kind of areas, fair enough, set a high low coming into kind of the trend line, broken through it, actually gapped above it. Now it's looking like it's coming back down for the retest, and with the kind of semi news at the moment, looks quite interesting. I really like this for a trade. What are your thoughts? Okay.
So it's pretty interesting. It did break the trend line, right? Those last two bars, the trading. What I don't like is the last day that we had a red, but that also is a confluence at the Fibonacci level. So right around the 50% retracement. The volume, I'm not very happy with the volume at that level, so I might not be surprised if we actually do head down to 146.77.
No, don't say that. Yeah, fair enough.
Right, that is where the volume shelf comes in. um so that's, if I'm doing options trading on this one, I'll probably target the 150 or 145 as my strike price to get in. That's what I'll target from an option trade. Now, again, the reason is we talk different levels is because our trading styles are different. I do options trading, so I am not looking for those big breakouts, right? I'm trying to get into a price point and then sell the covered call at the money. So there are different styles. That's why, a lot of times SHAUN has a different, entry point, stop loss versus my entry point and stop loss. So a
Yeah,
lot of keeping.
I think it's good because you bring that kind of diversity, and we look out for different things on the chart, and I might see something that you might not necessarily see, and obviously vice versa, and that gives us a little bit more of a perspective on where we can move forward, obviously, with the trades. But yeah, you're way much more a range trader, and I'm more of a kind of breakout trader, as you mentioned. But yeah, I like this one for upside, definitely, if we can get back down to that kind of 160 level. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. We could actually punch down to 157, but as long as the intraday kind of price action is good enough to push it back up above this kind of level, that would be even more bullish, in my opinion. But yeah,
Yeah,
we
I
will see what
for me
happens.
it's 155 entry. All right, so we actually have a couple more. We have SMCI, we have Tesla, and
Should we finish on Tesla?
we can, yeah.
Yeah.
SMCI, yes. So funny is I actually had the SMCI as my stock instead of Nike, and then I was like, no.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't touch SMCI at this point in time. The reason is, it's actually a ladder going down at this point in time. So what I want to see is the stock stabilizing before making. And there's a lot of negative news around the stock right now. So this is one of the reasons I don't want to trade. That's just me personally. That's
Yeah,
not to
that's
say
fair.
you shouldn't trade. It's your money. You do however you want. But I wouldn't touch SMCI at the current level. I want to wait to get a better range. Right now, it's just going down at at a ladder level, and there is no volume at 335. So if we see some more drawdown, there's no volume. The next volume that comes in is around the $300 level. So
Yeah,
that's another
300.
$100 dip from here onwards.
That's what I was going to mention. The 300 level was the only place that I would look for. Someone mentioned earlier about how SMCI can drag down NVIDIA, but I'm not too sure how much. I mean, if it does come back down to kind of 300, what's that? To be fair, that's another 20%. Yeah, no, fair enough.
That's a lot of it's a big drawdown, especially from a dollar standpoint, right? So if so 429 and 300 would be your 29% drawdown.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big drop. But then if you get in at 300, then perhaps maybe in a bit of a bounce, it could be a
Now,
potential
if
trade, but that's a bit risky for me.
no, if you're bullish on SMCI, and
Mm.
that's based on your analysis that goes in, you could always open a cash secured put at $300 because that gives you a 30% downside protection plus premium,
Yeah.
because you have not seen the 300 level since, I would say, January of 2024. Sorry, ma'am, I stand corrected. Let me see when was the 300 level. Somewhere around last year December.
Really.
Hmm.
What a run that was then.
Yeah.
The only thing is, it has created quite a lot of gaps on the way down.
It does. But the problem is that you do have the DOJ
Yeah,
investigation.
and I'm just one of those stocks you just don't touch. If it's in the news so much, I tend to kind of move away from it anyway. I was in an Intel trade a couple of months ago, just completely unrelated, or slightly related. I was in an Intel trade a couple of months ago, and it was just in the news every other day. And I thought, I'm just going to cut this because anything could happen. Sometimes you just got to take that initiative to walk away from it and move on to the next one.
Yeah, I think so. Angela says that we had a split announced or split happening this week. So most likely the stock will get updated. But even then, uh, that's still the point is that the stock is on a downtrend, especially because of the latest controversy. So yeah, your stock will be 10 to 1, right? So $41, $42
Yeah, I
current
mean,
price.
it doesn't change the fundamentals at all, does it? It's
Yeah,
just
it's
a number.
you may see a lot more options chain, a
Yeah,
lot more
yeah.
options chain coming happening at $30, but I would still aim for that
I
300.
guess if, I guess if people think, oh, it was 400, now it's 40, I'll buy that. You know,
Yeah, 10 to
yeah,
1.
that kind of extremely beginner look at things.
Listen, I
But
mean, if you got into SMCI last December, you definitely,
yeah,
and hopefully you were able to get out of your position at the top, even if not, then you still probably made a lot of money.
yeah. Hopefully you took some profits along the way if you're not still holding it. Blimey. Yeah, last one, Tesla. Good one to end it on. I think it's going really, really well. Just straight off the bat, really simple for me. I want to see 270. We've had the gap fill obviously recently. Moving to 270 would be my main target here. And I actually have a trade in this. I'm hoping it does go to 270 somewhere before all of the news that's going to be happening around this in the next few weeks, ideally. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think I'm also in a Tesla trade, so looking forward to the breakouts. My target price is definitely 280, because you have three events next week: delivery, following week the 1010 robotaxi announcement, and then followed last the earnings on 1018.
So 280, this is your target price.
Yeah,
Lovely.
because all my covered calls are around that 280,
Mm.
290, 300. Yeah.
Right, let's wrap this one up then, shall we? Once
Yes.
again, a big thank you to all for letting us use the platform. Really good to see. And we've had, 1,800 viewers today, which is not bad after 4 weeks off. Really pleased with that. Thank you for everyone who obviously joined in and took part within the comments. We love it. To your interactions, obviously, it gives us a few ideas as well. I picked up a few, obviously, with QCOM and AMD. So, really looking forward to diving into those charts in a bit more depth. But yeah, thank you very much. Any closing thoughts from UK?
No, I think you covered it very well. It's we are a little rusty for
Yeah, a
taking a
little bit.
4 week break and still getting the hang of it. But we'll see you guys next week and trade safely. It's going to be an interesting week as well, and we're kicking off a new month next week. So yeah,
Of course, and a new quarter.
and a new quarter, the last quarter for. I can't believe 2024 is almost coming to an end in
I
3 months.
know. It'd be Halloween before you know it. That should
Yes.
be Christmas before you know it. Whew. Anyway, that's a thought. Let's close this stream, shall we? Lovely. Right.